Coming at you from Scratch Wolf Studio. It's that time again to rage across the internet. It's your very favorite World of the Apocalypse podcast. I'm your host, Porter. Sitting across from me, our very own devil's advocate, it's Mr. Daniel Tyson.
Hey, everybody.
And that's not the sense of a woman, that's CJ.
Howdy, y'all.
Say hello to our little friend. It's Danny, he's lost it.
Heyo. Yeah, Danny's gone.
I hope the mic and the board picked up M's reaction to my intro.
I wasn't what I was expecting. I
felt a little Al Pacino today. And I thought, see, we expect M. I wanted to subvert expectations.
Well, you said a devil's advocate. First thing I thought of was Al Pacino, and in my head, I just went, tits. And then you did the sense of a woman, and I was like, holy shit, you read my mind.
Yeah. Welcome to Rage Across the Internet.
Oh, fucking Al Pacino.
So we were coming to you from on Al Pacino's birthday. No, I don't know that. Probably not.
I mean,
Probably not. No. Oh,
that would be cool.
It would be. I just felt like doing a thing. So welcome to Rage Across the Internet, the podcast where we discuss all levels of World of the Apocalypse and the career of Al Pacino, apparently. So,
Hey, Porter.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
It's April 25th.
Oh, my God.
That's the Friday of Chapter 5, Part 1. So close.
We almost did it, everybody.
Oh, my.
That's wild, actually. That's wild.
Damn.
In the time-averse. So, happy early birthday, Mr. Pacino. We know you're a huge fan.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I listen to this all the time. Me and Frankie Coppola used to listen to this duo below on the set of The Godfather.
What the fuck is Werewolf the Apocalypse?
I haven't invented it yet, but I knew.
He's in on the ground floor.
Is that an awful Pacino? I have no idea. This is my first time.
It was a bit awful, yes. Oh, you're talking to me.
I'm talking to everybody.
You're talking not about my impression. You were talking about your impression.
Yeah,
Yours, well, I can say yours is at least better than mine.
Oh, fucking hell.
Welcome to Daniel Tyson across the internet.
Sweet. Why I didn't do it?
He's a tight ass. He's a sadist. Worship that. Never. Come on, Kevin. It's a really good movie.
Holy shit.
What movie is this?
Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen it.
You should definitely check it out. With that reminds me too.
Ooh.
With it's him and Keanu Reeves and Charlize Theron in I think her first role, or if not her first, it's very early in her career.
Wow.
Okay.
I forgot about that.
Whoa. I'm Kevin Lomax. This is my buddy Bill. That's not in the movie. Should be. I think every Keanu Reeves movie should have an Alex Winter cameo.
Hell yeah.
That was the guy who played Bill M.
Okay. I'm still looking up Charlie.
Charlize Theron.
Not
I'm gonna be
Charlie,
honest,
Charlize.
I don't think I've seen any movies with her. Looking at these.
That's no way. She's made a lot of movies.
Yeah, but this you know what? We're not gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
Because we'll do that. That could be an episode. That could be a podcast.
That's its own podcast?
That could be its own podcast. We're not gonna. We will spend 2 hours just talking movies and actors and shit.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here for. That's not it. That's not what we're here for.
They're having to explain half of them to me.
That was getting better, though.
Hey, all right. I'll keep that in mind. Because I'm going to stop now. I'm probably not, but I'm going to try my best to stop now. You think you just record a post-mortem. This is nice. I like this.
Oh, yeah. That's good energy.
So yeah, we are for real going to talk about War of the Apocalypse today. We've got a fun one, I think, just like last week's.
2 weeks.
It's the normal show. You know what? The Let's Play's not fun, you creep.
Well, no, the Let's Play's way more fun.
Oh, you hear that, guys? You didn't like our show.
That hurts, Danny.
It's not what I said. It's not even close to what I said. I give up. Going home.
Cool. So before we get on the topic at hand, don't worry, Danny's not leaving. The door's dead bolted. He can't reach. We do have a little segment we like to call This Week in Bullshit. And I know Danny has prepared a little something. I know CJ's prepared a little something. But I'm going to go first. I'm going to sneak the line. Because I was just reminded of a thing, and I will forget about it again if I don't go first.
Okay.
And M, this concerns you.
Gasp.
So speaking of movies, I watched The Monkey yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
The newest one.
Yes. The one called The Monkey.
Where he's like the
one about the little wind-up monkey?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I remember seeing trailers for that. I didn't know that was an actual movie.
No, absolutely. It's based on a Stephen King story.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I watched this yesterday. And first of all, it's a comedy. They do not tell you it is a horror comedy.
Oh.
Okay.
And M,
Yeah.
you're going to love this shit.
Okay.
You are going to...
I do have a somewhat fear of monkeys.
I don't think
And
that's
apes
going to
and
apply.
gorillas are things in the primate family.
But this is a not an actual monkey.
Okay.
And like when I say that, you've had I feel strongly you've seen these with the monkey, with the little drummer monkey doll
With the symbols?
Yeah. Well, this one is
Yes,
the drummer.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's that.
Creepy as hell, usually. Just on their own.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, he wrote it. Stephen King wrote about it for a reason, right? I mean, mostly money for cocaine, but
I mean, what else does he write anything for? So,
but no, you look at the trailers, right? It's the monkey that keeps killing our family, and you're gonna love this. Holy shit! I walked into it expecting a straighter horror flick,
yeah.
you know, and I didn't. And then you get the performances. But these performances are so over the top. It's delightfully hilarious. He's like, oh my god.
Well, you said Stephen King, so I'm expecting, a straight horror kind of movie.
Well, Stephen King didn't direct, fucking, and I don't know how he feels about it. I don't care. This was delightful.
So
Okay.
for what it is, this is great.
So the over-the-top acting is on purpose.
Well, I don't know that. I wasn't on set. I'm telling you, fucking, what's in my heart,
Okay.
I do enjoy some over the top acting.
right? And there's a respectable amount of gore,
Okay.
Okay.
Good, nice.
perhaps a comical amount at times.
Okay.
Very nice.
There is a Rube Goldberg Final Destination quality to some of this.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
I did not expect this to be a good movie. And I'm not calling it a good movie. But I had so much fun.
So your
That it doesn't matter.
Right.
your expectations were at least met.
Certainly. It was probably a better time than I expected, but I was caught off guard at first by, again, some of the performances because I didn't realize it was supposed to be funny yet.
Okay.
And maybe it's not. But once I looked at it as a comedy, I had a lot more fun. I really enjoyed it.
That
Had more fun.
that's going to be interesting if
enjoying
we find out
the
it's
episode.
not a comedy.
Either way, I laughed.
He laughed. He cried.
No, I didn't cry. Fucking,
Oh, okay.
Cried from laughing, maybe.
it was intentionally a comedy.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I'm thinking of a particular scene that, of course, I can't discuss because I'm recommending it, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So I can't
True.
spoil a movie that's been out for like an hour and a half. But there's a scene near the end that there is no other way. There is no other way. This was intentionally. This was a comedy. But did not expect it. So the monkey, fucking bon appetit.
Okay, this is not what I thought of when you brought this up a couple minutes ago. But, like, I think what I was thinking was the monkey man. But it doesn't matter, so, like, I don't... All right, Porter recommendation, though, so put that on the list. Got it.
Well, I know M's going to love it. I didn't tell everyone else to go do anything. M is going to love it.
Yeah. I have a very specific taste in movies that can sometimes vary wildly from what other people enjoy.
I mean, we did watch Call Girl of Cthulhu because of them.
Yep, that was my birthday gift.
It's your birthday gift to our backers, frankly.
That too, yeah. It was a gift. You're right.
It was for backer night.
It was a gift.
Yep.
Yes, it was.
All right. Danny, what you got?
Well, there's a little story about what happened at work a few days ago.
Danny's got a work story. Buckle up.
Uh-oh.
Well, baseball season just started. And Detroit Tigers baseball opening day was the 4th.
Go Tigers. I don't really care.
Nah, I don't either, but like work's doing nicer things for us, and they're more occasions for like food and company wide like gatherings or whatever.
No, that's cool.
It was nice, and they got us coney dogs for lunch, and everyone gets 2 coney dogs. I mean, they're kind of smaller, but every coney's got the coney sauce, which for some of you is chili, but we're a Michigan thing here, and it's coney sauce.
Well, it's not just chili. It's a specific mixture. It's a specific recipe.
Right.
Just like you don't just throw a hot dog at a bun. There's a specific...
Right.
It's a very specific thing. But
so it was the coney sauce, mustard, and onions.
As it should be.
Yes. And everyone got 2, and they were a little bit smaller, but no big deal. And there was a ton left. A ton. So I went and got a 3rd. Now, when work does these work function like lunches, I skip breakfast.
Nice.
Because they usually have a ton of extra food. I get a 3rd one, and one of the ladies there, she goes, "We have extras, get more." I was like, "I do, I have a 3rd, I'm good, thank you." She goes, no, you're good. And she puts another one on my plate for me.
Sweet.
I'm like, okay.
Coney food coma. There's worse fates. Man.
Yeah, you're right, there's worse fates. But then I hear just bitching and from like 6, 7 different people. How come Dan got 4? You motherfuckers.
Hold on. Who are who's the fucking food police here?
Yeah, that pissed me off. I'm like, well, one, I got a 3rd. All right? They're not that big of coney dogs. They're a little smaller than normal, probably because they bought so many of them. And when the lady put one on my plate for me, I'm not touching it and putting it back.
No, but who are these assholes who are sitting here monitoring your fucking calorie intake?
I think it was just...
Who are these stalkers?
Right. There was just jealousy.
What's stopping them from going and getting
That's
the 3rd
what
or
I
4th
said.
themselves?
That's exactly what I said. I was like, if you're that hungry, go get your own.
Well, no, he's got to whine about yours.
Yeah.
Fucking... Everybody make sure you're monitoring Daniel Tyson's fucking food intake. What has he got, a crush?
Oh, it was so irritating. Everyone gets a bag of chips, everyone gets a can of pop. It's always great. But the only thing I was bummed about is that they didn't have extra coney sauce, because I like taking like a bag of chips and pouring some coney sauce on top of that.
That's,
Okay.
Yeah. But they didn't have
Well,
that.
he'd probably take that to HR.
Yeah.
Danny's dipping his chips in the chili. Everybody write him up. He's having too much fun and he's eating food.
Oh my god. Yeah. Opening day, go Tigers, Detroit sports that I stopped caring about a long time ago.
Well, my question is, where was mine? How come, if there's so many leftovers, how come you didn't bring me any?
That's the thing, is because usually if they have a ton of leftovers, I like bringing you stuff.
That's pretty cool, actually. That's the fucking benefit.
Because
your work is like 5 minutes from here.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, like I pass by your place 99% of the time I go home from work. Like, so I was going to get some, but there were guys who grabbed like 3-4 plates and put 6 Coney dogs on.
Did you report them?
I
Did you
should
report them? They took
Oh,
6.
Yeah. Then they like put more plates on top of it, and they staple them together, and they take them home to their kids. I'm like, what the fuck, guys?
I mean, fine, but you were taking some of your friend. Just
Like I wouldn't have grabbed 6 for you.
well, that's ridiculous.
I would have grabbed 2, but no,
it's
it's
too many.
You should have grabbed 4 so that guy'd be upset again.
if I could have, I would have. How about that?
So
Oh.
Next time, tell him you need to keep your strength up for banging his wife.
Perfect.
I should have. So I was like, fuck you guys.
Fucking monitoring my plate.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah, first I get yelled at because somebody else put a 4th one on my plate. That's what she said.
That's weird.
Yeah.
She didn't say that. You're just trying to impress us.
So yeah, we're a funny work story.
That's good. CJ, who's next?
So I'm bringing this up just a little bit for the context of, so everybody knows about Danny's pop culture journey, right?
We do.
And the fact that we didn't have anything for the last episode or this one, Danny.
What's that?
You're right.
But
I haven't watched it yet, so I'm sorry. I forgot where it was supposed to be on.
Also, this was,
I know.
20 minutes since the fucking last episode.
That-
What up, time?
I know,
Warriors?
but
Yeah, and
yeah, gotta have fun with the time verse.
yes, in busy
But-
life.
But in connection to this, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is a long while ago, Porter gave me some different suggestions for shows and stuff to watch, and specifically for an anime that I had originally no interest in watching. Fast forward to now, and I think I've gone through about 124 episodes and 3 movies, as I've caught up with the Universal Century era of Gundam.
Oh,
So proud.
I was gonna say, what in Gaia's name has 100-something episodes, several movies that you had no interest in watching, but you just watched all of?
I didn't just watch all of it.
Okay, well, not just now, but like since then. And then you're like, oh, the story of Gundam. I'm like, oh, never mind. I got it.
Fucking Mobile Suit Gundam. Fuck yeah. I'm so proud of you,
get
CJ.
Specifically the Universal Century, and it's one of those that I fully agree with Porter of, like, the way that he had laid out the timeline for me was perfect for, like, the entire story of Char and Amuro. Those names will be very familiar if you know anything about Gundam, at least Universal Century. If not, you'll get almost sick and tired of those names at some point.
Well, and if you don't have the context, consider it like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So, like the
And
good guy
the-
and bad guy, that they're kind of related?
Well, it's not a one for one. It's just,
No,
Okay.
the equivalents.
yeah.
Like, big names, the story kind of revolves around them, even if it doesn't actively at times.
Okay.
But it's this whole thing of, like, I was originally introduced to Gundam thanks to one of their spin-offs, because they have a lot of, like, alternate histories or spin-offs, or, like, way further, a couple hundred years down the timeline. And this, it was specifically Iron-Blooded Orphans, which is, like, a bunch of child soldiers-style stories of war drama.
Hmm.
But going, like modern interpretation of child soldiers, where going back to, like, the original Gundam and watching everything and getting to see the actual drama and every little facet of that get eventually, like, paid off as it goes. It was a really fucking interesting experience. And once again, it was 100+ episodes worth of shows across multiple seasons and series within the same timeline, and a couple movies. This makes a great end to Mobile Suit Gundam, the final movie that I watched. But it keeps going. And this is kind of where one of the things I was going to bring up is kind of setting, like, if anybody else wants to try this, because I fully recommend it. I fully recommend going through Gundam. And I imagine Porter probably has off the top of his head the order to probably watch. If not, I could figure it out. But one of the things I should mention of like the expectation, because a lot of the later Gundams, it's closer to like your modern day mecha where it's like the big acrobatic fights, the robots doing like backflips and shit before stabbing each other with swords. Where the original Gundam is a lot more grounded. They're not doing a lot of that crazy shit unless they're in space, and even then it's similar, like, okay, that's doable within the rules of the world. And it's a real interesting take because the Gundams and the mobile suits are weapons. They're not the main character. Which is kind of the issue with, like, later Gundams, is the suit becomes the character, almost.
No, that's true. It was something that the creator, Tomino, was always praised for when he made Mobile Suit Gundam, is and we're talking about giant fucking robotic suits here, but the realism of it. He worked very hard. There's a couple exceptions here and there of concepts that are a little maybe out there, but he very much tried to make it grounded and based in a level of reality. A level of. Mm-hmm. I mean,
Yeah, for a future where you have giant robots fighting, or people piloting giant robots to fight in war.
Even that, I think, CJ, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's important to mention, how you referred to it as a war drama.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something to keep in mind. Because, you people say mecha and you think of, like, Voltron, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe, like, Power Rangers. Well, we'll form the big unit together and use the laser to get the monster of the week, and that's not what's happening here.
Yeah, this is dealing with, like, politics, the concepts of war, the tragedy of war. Like, when somebody dies in Gundam, it usually means something, and they don't get a lot of fanfare most of the time. Because it's that quick, it's that, like, finality, but it's important.
Makes sense.
No, for sure. Between the characters, and there's a little bit, I think, at least I can speak personally, a little bit of geeking out over some of the mobile suits themselves.
Oh, yeah.
That's a side thing,
Yeah, because, like, once you start recognizing them, or because there's a whole model kit aspect where you can build a lot of the mobile suits, when you start picking out, like, hey, I have that one, or that's one that I've been looking at, or whatever, or you see a new suit design that's really cool, there's the moments of, like, geeking out over the, like, the level of detail they went into. Like, was it 8th MS team where, like, there's a moment where they've got to clear fucking sand out of one of the mechs, so they've got, like, this whole setup with a tarp and drop cloth and everything. It's like...
Well, right, and that goes into some of the thinking out, the realism, the just like the maintenance, and it's a little detail, but it's an important detail.
Like, as a whole, it's not an important scene, but it shows a little bit more about the world. Like, 8th MS team, one of the suits gets its head blown off. That's not as important because the pilot's still alive, but they have to pull a head from another suit because they don't have the replacement parts.
Ooh.
But it was a really...
I mean, that's an odd statement if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's just, like, once again, that level of realism of, like, hey, you don't have everything, so you gotta make do with what you got. Sometimes, like, hey, your gun's busted, so you gotta go grab a different one, or it's not gonna be able to do full auto anymore, so why not put a scope on it and make it into a marksman rifle? You work with what you got when you got limited resources, and it's that level of realism that they show in those moments that's, like, really neat. Like, they didn't have to do that.
No, I absolutely love the franchise. And again, the specific Universal Century. You know what we'll do in the notes?
Mm-hmm.
In the announcements.
Watch order?
Yeah, I'll do the order.
Okay.
Well, that'd be fun.
It's an investment, and it spans decades.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a fair warning. Like, Mobile Suit Gundam came out in 1978.
Yeah,
like,
shit,
seriously? I didn't know
this was a project for me that took about maybe 2 years, but that's also on and off watching.
But and when I say that, that means, the animation will be a product of the era it came out in.
Oh,
and will improve, and the quality will ebb and flow based on when what you're watching takes place in the order of the franchise.
Yep. Like, for instance, you have the original Gundam series, and then you have Origins, which is a prequel that came out, decades later?
Yeah, I think that started coming out in 2012.
Yeah.
So you're going to go from 70s animation to the 2000s animation, 2012 or so, animation. And then you're going to go back to like 98.
Ooh.
And then you're going to jump to like 80.
It's a little all over the place in that, but it's consistent quality. I'll give that. There's not many bad animation scenes or whatever. It's just, once again, products of the time, but it's consistent.
Yeah, we'll put the order.
And it's fucking good.
We'll put the order up on the notes, and which it'll be in the Discord and the announcements. It'll be on the Facebook. It'll be in the Buzzsprout. We'll make sure to. I'll make sure to give you that order.
Yes, please, and thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome, CJ. Fucking, I didn't know you. It's funny is you never let on that you're like, I don't want to do this. So I appreciate you giving that a shot on my recommendation, and then, I'm glad you ended up loving it.
Oh yeah, because whenever I originally saw Gundam, I had been Gundam is one of those animes that you've seen it, even if you don't know it. If you've even been adjacent to anime, you've seen a Gundam. You've seen a mobile suit. You just might not know it. And I hadn't been really on board originally because it's just a big mecha. I was expecting a Voltron.
Sure.
Very much pleasantly surprised. And it got me to go through fucking 3 series, 2 or 3 movies. Yeah.
That's a lot.
It ain't no One Piece, but it's a lot.
3 series, 2 mini-series in a movie.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But, yeah. There's a lot of hours.
Yep. But definitely worth it.
Oh, that's outstanding. We got to move on to M, because you and I will do this all day. We will geek out about them all day. So, M, what's up?
Yeah, so
in This Week in Bullshit?
Yeah, speaking of TV shows, recently I've been watching one of them, and I plan on rewatching another one. But I've been watching a show called The Great.
How is it?
It's pretty great, honestly.
It's okay. It's
pretty great.
Okay.
It's a comedic retelling of Catherine the Great in Russia.
Okay.
Okay.
It's mostly comedy and very little based on actual historical facts. But I think...
you weren't
what's
there.
her name?
You don't know.
I did kind of look some of it up because it was interesting.
Yeah, but they weren't there either.
What's her name?
Catherine the Great.
I have to look it up. No, the actress.
Oh.
Ellie Fanning?
Oh, Elle Fanning.
Yeah, Elle. Sorry, Elle Fanning is the main character, and she's just so pretty and such a good actor.
She actually, both of that's true.
Yeah, and she honestly, everybody in the show makes the show great, but honestly, her performance is just so good and over the top. I love it.
If I were Dakota Fanning, I'd be pissed. Well, right, because Dakota Fanning, and she was a good actress, good child actor, which is amazing already.
Yeah, you don't get very many of those.
And you had all this fanfare, and Dakota Fanning, she's she's got a sister?
Yep.
And that's kind of what happened,
Yep.
I can think of one thing with Dakota Fanning in it, but I'm thinking 4 or 5 with Elle. Going all the way back to Super 8, which is a good little movie. Nice little love letter to Steven Spielberg, but M was going, so I am sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So with me, the way I know I really like a TV show is that I want to sit down and watch a ton of episodes, but I also don't want to because I know it'll end sooner if I do that. And so I had watched the first season, 1 episode every evening for a while, and then I got to the last episode, and I didn't start the second season for a week or 2. Because I was I really need to pace myself here. It's going to be over. And so then I did the same thing with the second season. I watched about an episode a day or every other day, and then now I'm on a pause, and I'm about to start watching the 3rd season. And, oh, man.
How many seasons are there?
It's a good question.
You don't even know. It's a mystery.
No, I'm just enjoying it.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'd be worried. Like,
there's only currently 3 seasons.
But it's not canceled.
No. I don't know.
Well,
but
I'm
not gonna look it up, and I ask you not to either.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm not gonna tell you, but I'll look it up.
Yes, if you look it up, don't tell me.
I won't look it up.
And then I also don't like to watch one show at a time, so I also plan on rewatching some of the Doctor Who's.
Okay.
A little while ago, my favorite?
Yeah, who's your Doctor?
That's such a hard question.
Is it?
Probably Tenet.
Here we go, up top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. I can respect that.
I was going to say Tenet. I really like Eccleston, but I don't feel like he had enough. I don't feel like he had long enough. Like, it was only 1 season. But Tenet's my favorite, and a few years ago when I started rewatching it again, because that's one of those shows I can, like, space out a lot, because I've seen most of them anyways.
Sure.
So I'm at the end of Tenet's lifespan here. So.
Oh, it's such a shame.
I know. Such good episodes, though. I've only watched to the end of season 9, though. I've not seen anything past season 9, except for a few episodes here and there when they were ever on TV.
Yeah, I always called it, I got a few people in a Doctor Who. I would call it new Doctor sickness.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, because you hate the new Doctor at first, no matter what.
Yeah, like I didn't like Tenet at first, and then you grow to love Tenet.
Exactly. And I mean, like, the how long the sickness lasts depends on who it is, but yeah, you're never new companions too.
A lot of it's the writing as well. Like,
agree.
Some of these people like give really good performances, but by the end of season 9, like, who's that doctor? The older guy?
Peter Capaldi?
Yeah, Capaldi. I love Capaldi as an actor, but the writing started to fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get.
Like, I loved the way he was like performing the character, but the writing was definitely starting to fall.
I am inclined to agree. I don't want to make a meal out of that because we're gonna get fought,
yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, well,
people will fight us.
Yeah. Yep. That, and we could, have a whole podcast on it.
Again, this is the third topic so far that we could just dedicate a show to.
Yeah. But I did really love Capaldi's like acting and like his style as well. Kind of like that.
I had a
grungy, more angry about it.
Yeah, I had a hard time with the Smith era. Because you had, and I'm going to shut up about it and we can have a normal show. Whatever that means. Like, you had Eccleston and like the gravitas of Eccleston, and you had Tennant, and both of which had that anger. They did the whole Time War thing, before. So you had that anger, that residual aggression that he's working out. And then you get to Matt Smith, who was created by Jim Henson Studios.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Like, he was very animate and lighthearted. And
yep.
He had his moments, but he started he was a Muppet. Like, yay!
Yeah, I'm
like his arms flailing around, and I had a really hard time with that transition.
I'm more fond of him because that was like my first actual Doctor that I remember, like the first one I actually remember watching the majority of.
Sure.
Yeah. David Tennant was actually the first Doctor I watched. But, it was one of those things, like, I didn't have any of that to go off of, so I liked his energy towards the end of that, where, yeah, he is the lighthearted Doctor at times, but that goes away when it's time to get serious, like, real fucking serious.
No, he could bring it. I'm not saying he was a piece of crap, but he was just the transition between the intensity of David Tennant, and I stick with the Feltish performance.
Yeah, and I did have a lot of, like, I had a longer doctor sickness whenever the Smith Doctor came along. But then I have grown to love him, but he's not as good as high as David Tennant on my list. And then same with Capaldi, I had a little bit of doctor sickness there, and then I kind of grew to like him. I haven't seen the 2 newest Doctors, though. I just wasn't watching the show around that time, so I really can't form an actual opinion around it. So maybe whenever I go to rewatch it, I'll continue watching and form my own opinion. I honestly haven't watched them, so I can't really form an actual opinion for myself.
No, that's fair. I don't remember what season it was I stopped, but I know I just couldn't with the writing anymore.
Yeah.
I just couldn't anymore.
And what's sad is it's never really the actor's fault. It's often the writing, which is too bad.
It's usually that's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's for Rage Across the Hoovers. And Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, David Tennant, none of them are writing any doctor's notes around here.
Nope, that's all Dr. Porter.
No, that's Dr. Curtis Webb.
Curtis Webb, MD. I forgot. My mistake.
It's a huge mistake to make. There's not even the same letters there.
Doctor's notes for all if you want to get in the Discord.
And Curtis Webb, he'll hook you up.
And where can you find that Discord, Porter?
Well, we're on the internet, Danny. No, you can head to our website, to our forums, and that'll give you the link to our Discord. You can come hang out with us when we are available. Full disclosure, we're not around as much as we used to be. We've gotten
busy lives,
aggressively busier, but we're
always around on Wednesdays, though.
That's true. Wednesday night for Hang On Night, and we've got our specific backer night at the end of the month or the beginning of the month, depending on how the fucking month breaks down.
Some odd days in the middle here and there where we're hanging out in the backers lounge.
Yeah, well, we're here when we can, and if you need us, you can send, you can add us, and we're pretty good about that.
Yep.
But which sucks because we were there all the time, but then life got busier for everybody.
Yep.
It's like I feel bad for not being around more, but it's like, man, I got to write BTA, and we have a show and a game, and a job, and
plus
that's just
real
the flow
jobs,
of life.
Right?
Yep.
But we'd love to have you join the community because it's a great community, and we have some really great folks there. If you go to our website, there's the forums, and that awesome new section that M recently has cooked up for our Let's Play. But in the forums, there's the announcement section, and in there is the link to our Discord, and you can see what our site's about and hang out with our community. And, of course, that website is rageacrosstheinternet.com.
.com.
Oh, yes.
By the time you're listening to this, our character pictures will be up on the website.
That is a great
interested in the Let's Play characters.
Yes, that is a great point. Some beautiful new art from the incomparable Mr. Paul Way.
Hell yeah.
So thanks again, Paul. You kick ass, And,
they are awesome. So cool.
It's actually talking about how spoiled Danny is.
Yeah.
No comment.
Two of his characters, right? He's had 2 characters ever, and he's had 3 official commissioned pieces of artwork for those 2 characters.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Because we the first season we had Ariana Hirsch who did those really nice watercolor works for us, and then Paul Yeager and fucking Ricochet. Man is spoiled.
Yes, I am.
That was almost creepy, Danny.
I'm sorry.
But moving on from that.
I'm just saying.
Moving on. It's time to do because I know we ran long with this week in bullshit.
A little bit, yeah. That's fine.
So today we're talking backgrounds. And I almost said battlegrounds and fucked it up for everybody.
I mean, we did just have a postmortem about that a few months ago, but
that is not just enough for to get away with that being.
Yeah.
So backgrounds. And this is. Have we decided this is a 101?
Yes.
Kind of.
Okay. Yeah, this is the 101. Okay. So backgrounds, obviously, we talked about making the character. We've talked about the sheet. And we continue with the 101 series, and this is kind of a surprise to all of us, with backgrounds. Now, you have that section, right there on the sheet. It says backgrounds, and you have 5 points, to spend. You can buy more with freebie points, and these are things you don't need me to tell you. Your storyteller has already told you that.
Or you can read.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But what we want to do here today is we want to sit down, we want to run down these backgrounds and tell you maybe about them in a way that might be more helpful, and looking at you storytellers to talk to you guys about good ways to incorporate them.
And maybe giving some little cautionary advice for players who are picking them.
I think that'll happen anyway.
Usually
And,
does.
good as well as good expectations to have when picking them, because some of them are a little confusing. Honestly, the first time I looked through these when I was making my first character, I didn't quite know what they could be used for. So a player could also be listening to this and realizing, oh, that's what that could be useful for.
That sounds good.
Hmm?
So let us begin. Who wants to kick us off?
Are we
Do
just
have
going to go
a-
in order, or?
Why not? Just run down the book.
Okay.
Yes.
The first one is allies.
Alphabetical order, then. Okay.
Well, that's the order.
I mean,
they're
that's
in.
how it's listed on the
That's the
book.
order they're in.
I mean, yes.
Like, I was just looking at the book right now, and that's the first one on the list.
Yes.
Indeed it is.
A is for apple, also for allies.
Yeah, they're friends and confidants among humans and wolves.
They're
I never
people
actually
that
read that last part, I'm going to be honest.
I mean, it makes sense if you're a lupus character. Or even not, I guess.
Well, I think it's one of those things. It's a weird thing to wrap your head around, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think we have this idea, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. You know, because we live in a world where like Disney is a thing, and I don't mean like Disney today
Yeah.
is like a commentary on some shit. I mean like the world of like Bambi and anthropomorphic animals who have little conversations and play bridge and shit.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not what we're talking here. A wolf might be smarter than we realize,
Yes.
but in ways that aren't the ways like humans are.
Yeah.
You know, they're not speaking a secret Scooby-Doo language. You know, it's like when the humans go away, they don't stand on their hind legs and fucking brew some tea so they can have their monthly book club. You know, so I think with wolves, it's definitely a more, I don't want to say primal, but basic kind of relationship.
Yeah.
I could agree with that.
It's less your doctor, nurse, or hacker, or person who sells you things like guns. It's more of somebody who knows the lay of the forest around. That would be your wolf ally. While your human ally, or person you have a close relationship with, would be somebody who's maybe a doctor or somebody who sells you things.
Well, you know, I think
Puts you in
you're,
contact with those things.
well, see, the thing is, I think you're kind of leaning more toward contacts at that point. Because
Well, the contacts and allies are really similar, except for
Yeah.
allies are people you have a really close relationship with.
well, exactly. And that's the thing I want to focus on. You know, because these are people that were your friends. Or might be are your friends. Might be are. That's a sentence, and deal with that.
They could become your friends in the game, but they're somebody you have a close relationship with, but also they do also have a useful skill.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because couldn't any real NPC be an ally? Well, I guess maybe I should rephrase that. Any friendly NPC could be an ally.
Well, that's true. And it's the depth of that relationship, you know, makes the difference between ally and contact.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I like to lean on that word friend. And it's not necessarily friend, but it's a friendlier relationship, right?
Right.
For example, the owner of the comic store in Willow's Pass could have been an ally
Mm-hmm.
of Nightfangs if Nightfang weren't a dirty thief and a hypocrite and instead upheld the justice that he pretends to instead of stealing the guy's stuff like a creep,
Comic stealer.
right?
I mean, it was already stolen.
Like a thief in the Nightfang.
Another way I like to think about the allies is that while they do have useful skills, like being a doctor, let's just use doctor for example, they might ask something almost more in return from you, while a contact might just ask for like money or a quick favor. your ally is somebody who's like, hey, my cousin's in trouble. Can you go help her out? Or they might have something a little bit more close to heart to ask you to help them out with because they're your friend.
Okay.
Like your guys' friend, KT, would be, I guess, closer to an ally in this case, and we like go and help save her friends and keep her out of trouble, while the old lady is more of a contact for us at this point in time.
The old lady.
Yes, the old lady. I forgot her name. I can't remember it all.
Which tells you something about how the pack views her.
Deanna?
Deanna, thank you, yes.
You're welcome.
But then again, we haven't spent much time with her yet.
Whose fault is
This
that?
is true.
Yeah.
No, it's a thing. Like where, and to be clear, allies don't have to be, or they don't have to have that special skill, but there is a usefulness there, ideally.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it is like Deanna, a place where you can get a free meal.
Mm-hmm. Another example could be, the vet that you just happen to know or are friendly with. Maybe you saved them at some point, but not like fully aware of it. Like, their place was getting robbed and you scared off the people. They just didn't happen to see what you were doing when you killed the Fomori that were just going after the animals in the back. But now, hey, your friend gets gut shot by Silver. Everybody realizes nobody put dots into medicine. Maybe you can ask, like, hey, my friend's hurt really bad. Can you dig the bullet out?
Yeah. Or it could also be as simple as somebody who works at one of the local companies and can maybe get you a little bit information based on their ranking within the company.
Or that one cab driver that you just happen to keep finding yourself in the back of their car every time you get in a cab. And eventually you strike up that conversation and build just a little bit of a rapport.
Very Deadpool.
Yeah.
First thing that popped into my mind when you said that.
Personal aspect to the ally.
Yes, and that's the thing to focus, because again, we're very soon going to talk about contact.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're very similar, but the level of the relationship is the key difference. And it's not to say you can't be on good terms with the contact, but I think the easiest way to think about it is, the allies, you do favors for allies. All right.
In return for other favors.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, they can go both ways is the thing. They can ask you for favors. A contact is more of a business relationship.
Yeah.
You don't bribe an ally, but you probably bribe a contact.
Yeah. Contacts are definitely business negotiations, while allies are not. And when I was first making a character, I was trying to figure out the difference between those two and what that line is.
Well, and it can be sketchy, especially because as characters go, you might build relationships. Maybe a contact will turn into an ally, or maybe it's one-sided and you don't realize it, which can be fun too. Storytellers.
Yep.
But let's stick with the allies right now. Sorry, go ahead, Siege.
Like the big difference is allies is, hey, I've got a friend that can, versus I know a guy.
Yes. That's a great way to put that too. Allies are not family members. That's a different thing.
Yep.
But maybe the family member of a fallen packmate. Maybe, again, someone from your old life that you get in touch with every now and then. Maybe, it's the security guard or the cab driver. You guys have plucked out some really great examples. From the storyteller side of it, when you're confronted with allies, first of all, you need to make sure to detail these allies. Now, I'm not saying sheet them out. You don't have to, but you need to know their name. You need to know the relationship. And it's important, especially with allies, more so than contacts, is the storyteller to get with that player and understand who these characters are, because you're going to use them, hopefully.
Yeah, this is like, hey, player, you get to make a member of the supporting cast, potentially.
Potentially.
Now, you just got to give the ST the info to do it.
Right, because as much as you can call on your allies for help, they can call on you for help. And potentially your buddy, the 15-year-old homeless kid who, he knows the word on the streets, Johnny Orphan, he's your boy.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Orphan can very easily become Johnny the Boy Hostage.
Yep. Or Johnny the New Leech.
Right?
Yikes.
Things can happen. So it's important to know who those allies are, to find the best way to use them.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of a great example that I shouldn't have said anything about because I can't talk about because I don't want to spoil somebody's game for the players that might be listening. Haha.
It was a long way
Never
around
mind
that.
then.
Right? That was a whole bunch of shit that didn't need to be said at all, huh?
Yep.
If it's your first show, it might be mine.
Allies are ultimately going to be useful. They're going to ask for something in return, or, the favor. Or they could be the ones to start that conversation. Like, they might not wait for you to ask them for something before asking that favor. If you ever, as an ST, if you ever need your players to go to a specific place for whatever reason, maybe consider looking into these allies and being like, hey, who makes sense for them to be involved in this? And maybe that's a new angle that you can kind of use to point your players in the right direction.
It's not a bad idea.
No, it's not. I completely agree. Also, I did say something earlier that I feel like I better clarify.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about Timmy the Boy Hostage. I'm not saying a storyteller can't kill off their players' allies.
Yeah.
But don't make that a go-to. Hey, if you're going to put them in danger, use them as a plot point or a plot device, that's fair game. Just remember that your players put some of their points into this.
I was just going to say that.
Right.
And this is where I also bring up the, because I made the mention of, or maybe Timmy the New Leech. If your players have the supernatural contact merit, that could be an easy way to explain that with their allies. And have that come up in game. But yeah, maybe don't make that your go-to.
Right, and that's a good dot connect, but that's a very specific one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it's not off, the kind of thing isn't off limits, but just be careful with it.
You gotta be respectful about it.
Yes, and it's got to be, I'm going to say it, if you're going to put that ally in danger, in mortal danger, as a plot device, I'm not saying they can't be killed, because that now removes the stakes for every player who's heard this, and now they don't take it seriously and don't care. Also, though, I'm not saying it's carte blanche, and, every player who picks allies is just giving you a fucking nice pool of hostages whenever you're bored or feeling lazy and just want to up the stakes, because that's going to piss off your players.
Yeah.
And also, it's lazy after a point.
It's okay to put them in some situations, but definitely let it be extremely plausible that you have that heartfelt moment at the end where they save their friend.
Yeah, make that a possibility. Absolutely. And don't overextend it. This is not a, once a chronicle thing. It's not a once every 5 stories sort of thing. It's not like your monthly, friend getting murdered.
This is good for, like, the consequences of a player's actions.
Certainly. I wanted to make sure to double down on that. To make that clear.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Make sure your players have a chance.
They put dots in it, let them be able to utilize those dots and not just rip it away.
Yeah,
Right.
Otherwise it's a waste, and then what are they doing? They can't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna do it, make sure it was pointed out. Make sure it's a result of character choice or character mistakes.
Yep.
Right. We didn't make your high school or your junior high best friend. We didn't put him in the crossfire because I'm bored and couldn't think of a better plot line. It was because you didn't bother to check if you were being followed.
Yep. Or, you guys ran into this, high-tech building in Hamid without faces covered.
Right. And look at the dot connect.
Yep.
So, all right, let's move on to Ancestors.
Ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
M, you want to take that one?
Yeah, my character in our actual play has a couple dots in ancestors. It's one that I always found very interesting, and it's the Garu specifically, their connection to their ancestors. So with that, you can have there's each dot describes different levels of it, but it's essentially their connection to their past, and so you can call upon your ancestor spirits, specifically if you have this background, and learn things from them about maybe what's going on in the game. Perhaps there's something that connects to the past. You can learn new gifts like Carly did and our one-off. All kinds of cool things you can do with ancestors.
And now to add on that, absolutely with the gift thing, that was neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think that was a really awesome way to incorporate the ancestors and me wanting to get a new gift as a player.
And thank you. It was fun to do.
Yeah, it was taught by an ancestor spirit, so it was perfect.
But that's the thing, right? Because death is not final for the Garu.
For the Garu, yeah.
You know, they know they're going to go back and back into the system and be reincarnated. Welcome back to the live stream. We know how it works. And so, interestingly enough, when you talk to an ancestor spirit, you're not talking to the actual ancestor, but you're talking to a representation of that ancestor. That's already part one on that, right?
Like a simulacrum of who that person was before.
Right. It's a spiritual representation. It's not the real one.
Right.
It's the hologram they did for the concert.
Yeah. I know I've played this out a few different ways, the few times I've gotten to use it. But if I remember correctly, it's not just your ancestors as in the Garu in your family line. If I remember correctly, this could also go to your past lives, since Garu do have that reincarnation cycle. Am I right?
Well, past lives was the original name for the background.
Okay.
And they changed it to clarify that very issue.
Oh, okay.
I think it makes more sense as ancestors.
They didn't change the background.
Mm-hmm.
They just changed the name because it is your ancestors through your family line. Is that also your past lives? Theoretically.
Maybe. Yeah.
But prove it.
Fair.
So ancestors is a softer version of that, to kind of clarify.
Okay. And this is where I've always used it kind of like the past lives in the sort of Avatar world, whenever they access those.
Which is fair, but I mean, it really could amount to the same thing at that point.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but there is one restriction on ancestors, and that would be if you are playing a Silent Strider.
No, that's correct. Striders can't have past lives because that's tied to the Silent Strider curse.
Yeah.
They exist. There are Silent Strider ancestor spirits. They're just completely cut off from the Striders.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
which is unfortunate.
Lore stuff. And
Lore stuff.
implications to go through.
Oh yeah, that's a couple.
But a good thing to know if you're making a Silent Strider. It's unfortunately not a background you can take.
That's true. And the funny thing is if you're looking at W20, that's the only background I believe that is completely banned. There are discouraged backgrounds now, but back in previous editions, there were flat out restrictions. There were tribes that just weren't a Bone Gnawer could not have resources.
Right.
Period.
Now it's just discouraged.
Right.
Yeah, it's special circumstances only.
Right. Which is fair because you can make that argument, but in the previous editions, it was no. These are things you couldn't have.
Which is nice because it makes it a little bit more flexible when you're making a character to make it your own.
I largely agree. Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately, with the Strider thing, that's kind of it's non-negotiable.
Yeah. I also remember with Ancestors, my first character I made, I also gave her dots and ancestors. I just have always found it a really fun and interesting background. And it was used once, unfortunately only once, but also fortunately because it was a really big plot device for the story. There was an item that needed to be found in order to seal up a Bane, and I was out of commission for a little while. I was traveling, so I wasn't able to play the game for a few weeks. But whenever I came back, me and the storyteller had a nice long scene where while my character was in a coma. That's how he described me being gone. I just suddenly fell into a coma. But during that time, I was communing with my ancestors. And so we had like a good like hour session, just like with me chatting with my ancestors and figuring out about what was to come and what I needed to do.
No, that's good stuff. And I mean, and that goes to what I want to say here is you have ancestors. You know, that's a great way to, through communing with the ancestors, to gain knowledge, perspective. You can even call upon them to loan you their strength.
Yep.
Mm,
You know,
that's interesting.
right.
I think I did that with you here once.
I don't
Oh.
recall.
That's why I said once.
So, like, yeah, you could straight out, you know, and I say strength, but we can literally use this stat of strength. In that ancestor spirit, you know, there's roles involved, can lend some of its strength to the character, like in terms of actual adding dice to shit.
Right.
Yeah. The way I've always looked at it is it's kind of like a almost temporary possession where, yes, the spirit is lending you its skill. You don't suddenly know how to do this or how to better use your strength. It's more like, here, let me do it for just a moment.
You know, that's how I like to do it too. Like a temporary and willful, you know, possession. You know, we're teaming up on this.
I'm
it's-
I'm requesting your help. Can you please help me? Which is really interesting because I'm reading it right here that it can do that. But I guess I never made that connection in the past. And thinking about it now in a little pack of 3, that could come in handy at some point in time.
And here's something I'm excited to add about this, because you know I've had players that have taken past life or ancestors. I prefer to say past life just because right now I want to be fucking difficult. But I've had
You need
people,
ancestors.
yes, I do. So I've had people who've taken that background before and have never really used it. And you know, you say you bring up you only used it once in that previous game. We've only used it once in our game. And my initial response to that, like it wasn't a complaint at me, and we all know that. But my initial response was, well, how many times have you called for your ancestor?
This is true. And I'm learning now I could probably call on them for different things at different times if I needed to or wanted to.
Right. And that's the thing, too, though, is you have an ancestor through us playing the game. Like Carly has an ancestor that is named. They've met. They've spent time together. You know, I mean, they didn't go to the park and have a picnic, but you know, there's been interaction, and so that is an ancestor she could specifically call upon to further a relationship. Or what other ancestor spirits are there, you know, down the line? And again, I look to you, storytellers. This is a great way to build a rapport with an ancestor spirit, but also just because it's an ancestor doesn't mean it's a good guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're of sound-minded body.
There's a reason why I have a dot or two of ancestors myself as Night Fang. There's a reason I haven't used them yet. Out of character, but that's to give Porter time to be able to work something out.
Yeah. And as a player, hearing something like they might not be of sound mind might be scary. But so long as you like trust your storyteller to tell a good story, and as long as you are a storyteller who is telling a good story, not just trying to punish your players, that's kind of an exciting thing to encounter and navigate around. It's interesting. To me, that's kind of like this. It's a little thrilling, almost, you could say.
That's thank you for that. And also, I had the time to remind you, storytellers. Yeah, your job is not to murder your players as quickly and efficiently as possible. your job is to tell compelling stories that leave your players excited and hungry to come back for more, and you know, experience emotion and talk about these stories for years and years on end. That's the hope, right?
Yeah.
And I only like bring that up too because I've had experiences with fantastic storytellers and also with ones that are actually trying to kill me at every corner. And by far the games that I talk about and really enjoy and talk about for years on end are the ones that are like telling a good story and I'm enjoying it and I trust that person to do their job.
What up? Yeah, that's the thing,
You're not
right?
the only one.
I didn't say that. Shit.
No, I was just the only one here.
Yeah, the only one here.
But what would constitute a storyteller giving them a bad ancestor? Bad being in quotes there.
What do you mean?
Story?
In story, what would constitute them having, because it's a bad role?
Well,
No, a bad roll usually signifies that you're unable to contact them.
Yes, Danny knows that, and I'm just out of curiosity to another storyteller. Someone who's not, a good person.
that's all relative in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in service to the story. First of all, when you're calling out into the dark,
Mm-hmm.
anyone can answer.
Right.
Yep.
Right, and that's an important thing. Well, I'm going to call it to my ancestors. Well, which ancestors? What I might do, if they're not calling someone specific, is I might roll, say an odds or evens or something,
And
to discern
who shows up.
But as a storyteller, what I want to do is I want to know in advance who's got ancestors and who doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
and come up with some ideas. I didn't just ad-lib the ancestor M's character had,
And yeah, they weren't exactly the nicest, but they were knowledgeable.
And yeah, they're, quote, they are people too. Right?
Yeah.
They have their own personalities and had their own lives.
Again, another simulacrum. Damn it. Another simulacrum.
Yes.
Yeah. An example could be, maybe some grudges come back to pay. Because, once again, these are your ancestors, your past lives. They know what they knew. Maybe you've got a particular tribist ancestor. Maybe you've got a Black Fury ancestor who hates the Get.
Or who hates that you're a dude
And a
calling on her.
Yeah.
or you're the only woman in a pack of men.
Mm-hmm. I could see them doing some malicious compliance to help you out.
Yeah.
If you're, if they're called upon.
What if your ancestor has a grudge with a bloodline that's still around, or even a Garu that's still around?
Yep.
Or if Carly was a Black Fury and had Black Fury ancestors, how would they respond to me joining up with a crew with two guys and not being the alpha?
Or how about if she's not a Black Fury,
Yeah,
and she
not
has Black Fury ancestors?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a problem?
Possibly, yeah.
But again, what if the ancestor's just an asshole?
Yeah.
Also a possibility.
What if they're crazy?
What if they saw something at the end of their life that made them go mad and they carried that on with them?
Or just always was?
What
Or
if
hey, what if you have a great uncle that danced the spiral?
Yep.
Or a great grand uncle, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Someone less closely attached, but
Who was
one
a
of your
bad
ancestors.
guy. Actually bad guy.
right? But if you don't know that and you're just calling into the dark,
Mm-hmm.
who knows who's going to show up? Make that roll. But the storyteller, make sure you got an idea. Have some good ones, have some bad ones, have one that's a prick. Talk with the player and come up with however many is appropriate based on what they on what they've taken.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can be a really fun tool and makes them for really interesting role playing. But yeah, don't. Anyways, with all cases, don't take advantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not out here to punish the players. We're here to use this to enhance and make some really cool shit go on.
Yeah. Avoid any gotchas. You shouldn't make your players dread calling their ancestors necessarily.
But how fun would it be, right, if Carly calls up an ancestor, and I forget the name of the fucking ancestor because I'm a bad storyteller. But if another one shows up and is like, you can't trust her. That's not how she died.
Mm-hmm.
What?
What tribe did she say she was?
My current ancestor?
No, I mean, what if they asked that?
Yeah, they're that's the conversation. Like, oh, fucking Pearl Harbor. You believed that?
Oh yeah, sometimes your ancestor might just be a shithead. Who knows?
You didn't see that thing in her arm? She's the one that caused it the whole time.
It's possible.
Mhm.
Moving on, Danny, let's talk about contacts.
I guess context is like just could be a little bit less, or no, it could just be a little bit more vague than your ancestors or allies. It's somebody you know because maybe it's like a reputation kind of thing.
Well, and we hit a lot of this, right, when we talk about
Yeah.
ancestors. Is, the
Or
context.
allies.
Thank you, Jesus Christ. We hit down on a lot on this when we talked about allies. Is, these are the people that are not really your friends. You can be friendly with them, but they're not your friends.
Right.
These are the people that maybe you have to bribe to get a thing. You have a more business kind of relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
This is once again, I know a guy.
Right.
I think about the movie Seven and the Fed in that movie.
Okay.
Morgan Freeman says to Brad Pitt, "How much money do you got?" And they're sitting at the diner and they're waiting, and the guy comes in and he takes the money, and he's like, "Okay, only for you," and he leaves and he comes back with the information. Money changed hands. It's more of a business professionally relationship.
Yeah, it's a favor for a favor.
If your contact Billy, the night watchman goes missing, you're not
Yeah.
gonna mount a rescue operation.
Right.
He's just gonna be dead, and that's one less tool in your arsenal.
Yeah. Maybe you'll talk to his replacement to see if you can work something out.
Right? Maybe you can get a replacement, and that's the thing. It's a very different relationship than allies, which is, and again, it doesn't mean you can't be friendly with them, but it's a different thing.
Yeah.
It's the guy you chat to a lot at work, but you're never going to invite to your home.
Yeah, I got a couple of those.
Right? It's more of an acquaintance, businessy relationship.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying it's more of a vague, situation here.
I think impersonal might be the better way to go with that.
Yeah, not nearly as personal.
Which, yeah, this is anything from, once again, like the guy that you know who maybe you've heard rumors, or maybe they deal drugs, so maybe they've got some information that, hey, where might this new drug be coming from that we've heard about? Ultimately, he's going to ask for some cash, or for you to do something first.
Right? Or it's the cop who's on the take that you can bribe for some information about a thing, or who isn't on the take and who you can get information from because he knows you on the sly will take care of some of those shadier things he can't, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, maybe it's the reporter that if you feed them a story, if it's good enough, it'll go up on the front page.
I think a contact might have been that poor waitress that you guys killed.
You didn't kill any waitresses.
You did, remember? Because
No.
you stole the root beer and you couldn't pay for it, so she got fired and then hit by a truck.
Okay, well, she might have died by unfortunate circumstances that were caused all by us, but we didn't kill her.
You know what? I actually have a possible example of who I would consider more of a contact in our current game.
Yes, do a real one.
Deanna.
Yeah. No. Let's say Carly as our Theurge needs to get some specific reagents and supplies, and we need to go out and get something kind of close, but we don't know where to get an actual version of it. Maybe we go talk to Alana and see if her magic shop has some of the herbs she's looking for. We know Alana. We've talked with her a bit. There's that start of possibly a friendly relationship, but ultimately this would be business. This would be, hey, can we buy some of X, Y, and Z?
That's fair.
We know Alana. Yeah, we know Alana through KT. And while Carly would like to have Alana as an ally rather than a contact, right now, I guess she would be closer to that of a contact.
That's a great example where KT is an ally, Alana is a contact.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. We know Alana through KT. Once again, we know somebody who knows someone.
Doug.
Yeah?
Is
Contact.
No one. But
Doug is no one.
You've never even met him, but I just wanted to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
But he could be.
He could be.
down.
He could be your greatest ally.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
He could be Ricochet's ancestor.
He's going to be...
Probably not. That
gonna be
math
his
doesn't...
greatest
don't.
enemy.
Let's move on, because those are so close.
They're kind of close.
Yeah, super close.
So the next one's...
We already talked about it a lot without talking about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, next is fetish, and I'll take fetish.
Well, in
Next is fate.
W20 here is fate. Yeah.
Well, shit. Okay, well then I'm taking fetish, and someone else go. Fuck off.
All right, next would be fate, which, like allies and contacts, can be pooled, like shared among the pack.
Mhm.
But fate is really interesting because it's almost like a prophecy, something that you or your pack, if you pool it, is meant to do or achieve within the story.
Now, I have a word of warning for players, real quick with this one. Before you put any dots in fate, talk with your storyteller first.
Oh my god, yes.
My first actual game of Werewolf I ran, I had one player who, they seemed to act like they were very, very knowledgeable and like they were more experienced than I was in Werewolf. So I let them make their character sheet. They gave me the concept. That's all I needed. And I was like, okay, I trust you to make your character sheet and make it well. Session 1 comes in. Some stuff happens. They ask, hey, can I use my dots of fate? And I'm like, sure. Let me check the book. Okay, this is interesting. How many dots do you have? 5.
That's crazy.
I mean, you have 5 points.
Yeah.
Yep. But whenever you look at like the scaling and what it suggests for like 5 dots of fate, I had no idea they had this much. I was thinking like, little stuff at first. But then being told like, oh yeah, they have 5 dots. I was taken aback as I had no fucking idea what to do with it originally, and I had to rework a chunk of the story versus telling them no, because I was the ST not inclined to say no originally.
Which it's really interesting that you bring up rolling for it, while I'm seeing here that you do roll for it.
Mm-hmm.
My first character I played, I had a dot or 2, I can't remember. I had a dot or 2, though, in Fate, and so did several other the players, and that fed into the storyline that we went on. I'm learning now that you can roll for it, and that would have been really nice to know.
It works more or less like Ancestors, where it's you do the roll to see if you get extra dice for a roll. But this is one of those, you kind of have to pitch it to your storyteller in the moment of like, hey, does this kind of work with the, with the prophecy or whatnot already established? Like, let's say one of your prophecies is like you're going to kill a monster of epic scale, or it's an epic deed that you've killed it. Maybe you keep fighting progressively larger and larger monsters. You can get away with like maybe cashing in some of those fate to get some more dice in these rolls. But now you're fighting a scrag and you ask, can I use my fate here? Probably not, because you don't know exactly what your prophecy is or exactly what your fate is, but it's probably not around killing bats.
I feel like a scrag, in terms of fate, is so low tier.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Funnily enough,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be the fucking buzzkill here.
Yep.
This is one of these backgrounds I do not recommend. I don't care for. I in principle have a problem with this, the same way I have a problem with the comic in W20. The same way that they took the Prophecy of the Phoenix and they added a tenet that essentially says, but everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem I have with Fate is not in the functionality of having a once per game thing that lets you re-roll. I mean, that's just lucky. That's just the flaw lucky.
Merit.
Yes, that's just the merit lucky. It's in fact, it's a worse version of lucky.
Yes.
Yep.
But my problem is the not the game mechanic aspect, but what it means for this overall story aspect. Because you are now guaranteeing it feels like it's a main character syndrome. You know,
I see that, yeah.
Yeah. And
Which is kind of the problem that the player I had in my game came into with it, with their 5 dots.
Exactly. You know, and I know there are people out there going, well, I am the main character. No, you're not. No, you are not. Your pack is the main character. It's an ensemble cast. And you go, well, you can use it to, to do the whole, the whole pack can get in on that and make a, yeah, it says that. But the problem with this is now you're creating, you are kind of forcing the storyteller's hand
Yeah.
in terms of where the game is going to go. Because I'm going to put 5 dots, and according to this 5 dots thing, my fate is integral to the apocalypse, and that makes me the most important thing, and the world revolves around me. And that is a terrible position to come from.
So if you are a player or a storyteller making characters or helping your players make characters, fate is definitely something you would want to discuss whether or not you are going to be using in the game.
Right. And if you decide to allow it, make sure you come up with the prophecy before you start the damn game, even if you don't tell the player.
Well,
Exactly.
I can't imagine the player would even know what the prophecy is until it happens.
Exactly. And this is where, once again, talk to your ST if you're the player who wants to take dots of fate. Before you even take those dots, talk to your ST first. If they can't have a decent idea for how to make this work with the story, you probably won't be allowed to take it. Or if they can, maybe it's something interesting. Like, once again, with the Wild West one, I eventually came up with the idea since that was my first game. With how the timeline worked, and with those dots of fate, hey, it's integral to the apocalypse. I was going to have them find where the Storm Eater was originally sealed. They weren't the Two Moons pack. They were the pack that enabled the Two Moons. That game has more or less died, but...
Which is a shame, but it was a neat thing there. And prophecies can be tricky things. So if you're writing a prophecy, you can word things in a way that it can be ambiguous.
Yep.
And you probably want to, because if you do the reveal, you don't want it to be, oh no, you guys are going to find the MacGuffin, you're going to find the bones of Shekar Hind, and you're going to fucking send Nexus crawlers to free the worm and turn the Weaver into into an asshole. I don't know. But you don't want them to know, a clear line. It's the thing is that fate is, like a main character thing, but it's also plot armor.
It is kind of, yeah.
And that's not fair to anyone else. It's not fair to the storyteller. If you've created a situation where your characters are integral to the apocalypse, so they got to be alive through the whole thing, then there's no stakes. And so what are we doing?
The other thing to go off of that is also avoid the temptation of making it a monkey's paw, because there is the dark fate flaw for that.
You did it too. Sorry. Sorry.
All good. But yeah, there is a flaw specifically for that situation.
And I think ultimately that's my main recommendation, is if you want to do fate, maybe don't do fate and take lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you kind of hate lucky.
I don't really hate lucky, though.
Well,
I think it's when players use it as a crutch.
But it's if they're going to take the crutch,
yeah,
I'd rather them take lucky than the one that hobbles it in your fucking ability to tell a story, because they're the specials that ever specialisted.
Yay!
So I have to, yeah. So let's go to fetish.
Yes.
The one Porter actually wanted to cover.
Right. Well, I got stuff to say about this one too. And now fetishes, as we know, and let's double down on this. We're not talking about like feet or dressing up like a baby or
Turtles.
Or turtles, apparently.
What?
Don't ask him to elaborate. We don't want to know.
Yeah.
Statistically, it's a thing.
So a fetish in the world of darkness in Werewolf is a physical object to which a spirit has been bound. They are weapons. Mm-hmm. They are, quote, magic items, which is not, they're not magic items. It's different, but
you can equate them to that if you're using D&D terms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. For the 101 back of the box case, sake of it all, you can think about them like magic items. They're items that have a power because of the spirit that is bound inside of it.
Yes, they are a magic item, but they're not just a magic item. They're a lot more than that.
Right. They're also kind of holy items. They're holy relics. They're, they are tools, but they are also sacred objects because a spirit has given its freedom to empower this item.
Yep.
There's a little bit of a genie in the bottle kind of aspect to it, although we're not coming out of it and granting wishes. But so fetish is the background is your ability to start with a fetish or multiple fetishes based on the amount of dots will signify the amount, the number of fetishes or the power level of the fetish.
Yep.
This is another tricky one.
Yeah.
If you're
This is
starting
also
out as a
this is a good way to gauge what kind of player a new player might be.
That's fair.
With
Yeah.
how many dots
Yeah.
of fetish they take.
And as a new player, I would recommend, if you do take dots and fetish, only get level 1 fetishes. Maybe 1 level 2 fetish if your storyteller approves it. But anything above that is maybe too much for a Cliath.
Yeah. I mean, look at the litany. Who's to say anybody's not going to take that thing from him? Whatever that fetish might be.
I mean, that's actually, it's a good point, Danny. The more powerful fetish you have, especially in the hands of a younger, untested, unproven character,
Mm-hmm.
the more likely that shit is to be taken from them, or, you know, they will likely have to defend against that pretty well constantly. Someone who thinks that they're not deserving of and that that weapon or that item is in better hands. It can be a great way to tie into the history of a character, a fetish that has been passed down the family line. But I would really reserve that for players as a storyteller, for players you really, really trust. And then even then you have to be concerned about balance in the game. And in that, I mean fairness with the other players.
I can agree on that.
You know, it's aggressively not fair to let a player have a clave no matter how beautifully he wrote a backstory to justify it. When
Clave is huge.
right, that's massive, especially, and then no one else has anything.
Yep.
Again, you in a balanced situation, you've created a monster where everyone else is the sidekick to the guy with the clave. That breeds resentment.
Also, with having really high-powered fetishes as a low-level character, with a lot of fetishes, you have to roll and your gnosis and able to be able to use that fetish. And if you fail that roll or botch that roll, that fetish is likely to break. And that in itself is a danger to your renown and so many other things.
Yeah.
A lot of consequences to that.
Yeah, not to mention, you can't fix that. You can't take it to the blacksmith. This ain't D&D. That fetish is busted forever. You done fucked up. That's gone now. Good job spending all of your background
Killed a
points.
spirit.
All your background points to break.
Well, you release the spirit. The spirit is gone.
Yeah, it fucks off.
It's not coming back.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's a fun time. Yeah, I would definitely. I don't encourage fetish, but something, especially in hybrid, like at all. Like you're not getting a clave. I don't care what your name is. But little things, sure. And I'm especially personally, I'm more likely to approve a non-combat fetish.
Yep.
Like
Sometimes,
Carly has a fetish I almost had to use last game with a raging ricochet. But
that's right.
yeah, I almost had to use my fetish. I believe it's the flute.
Yes, the
that
harmony
calms rage. Yeah, the harmony flute that calms rage. I haven't used it yet, but I was about to.
I had a harmony flute was a factor in my very first full game of Werewolf. Not as a storyteller, as a player.
Oh.
There was the first story, that initial night, the first 5-minute thing, but the first real story with the group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a harmony flute that was heavily involved in that.
And one thing I will say is an ST, if you're not sure on specific fetishes or stuff like that, and your players are up for it, this is one of the things. Check with them if they trust you, if you trust your players, if everybody's going to be reasonable about it, and they want one of these potentially higher level fetishes. You can use those dots as a promise.
You don't even need a high level for that, frankly.
No.
Well, this would be if your player is dead set, if you have the Silver Fang, who the familial clave is usually a thing for them. This could be the, okay, yeah, you're going to get this at some point. Trust me, I have a story.
I mean, again, I don't disagree. But I mean, I've done that with these guys too, because, as you guys know, I like to start my games at the start.
Right. And there's no reason a starting Goliath would have any kind of...
Well, there's a couple reasons you can forge, certainly.
Yeah.
But let's look at let's look at the case of Crimson Ghost and Jaeger, right? There may have been points in Fetish.
Right, but we didn't get them right away.
Well, right, because you were picked out of a fucking van on your way to a fucking spiral pit.
Right.
You didn't have clothes when you started. Why would you have a clave with you?
Yeah.
Which they didn't have clave, let's be clear.
No.
But, if you don't have underwear, they're going to have a fucking magical fetish on them? No.
But
they don't even know what a Garu is.
Exactly. But so you do, okay, well, you have these points in Fetish, and we'll go over what it is, and you will get it.
Eventually.
Yeah. Sooner rather than later, hopefully, but when it makes sense for the story. But you are promised it. You do get to have it. It's a good way to do it. Because otherwise it doesn't always make sense.
Correct.
Could you imagine?
I mean, a little bit, yeah.
Fucking, we got kidnapped by these black spiral dancers, and they stripped us naked and tied us into this van, but...
They let Claves in there with us.
Yeah, they put a fucking shotgun with a fire spirit next to me. That's weird. They let me keep that.
Yeah, they let
understand.
me keep it. Hold this while I go fight your allies.
Right? Fucking...
Go hold this while I'm fighting the people trying to save you.
Don't let anyone get near you.
Careful, it's loaded. So definitely, be careful with Fetish, in terms of that. But yeah, it's. I think the best way to use it, is a promise for the future.
Yep.
And sometimes that can be fun to create a fetish if you have a Thurge in the group to come up with something original. If you don't, nothing in the book seems to fit right. There's room to play there, especially as you get more experience.
And even if you didn't start off with dots and fetishes,
well, you can still get fetishes, but this is
exactly
that's
yeah. Don't feel like if you want a fetish, you have to take the dots. You could get one eventually.
Right. I think probably this background is best suited if you're playing characters who have and you probably won't be at a 101, right? But playing characters who start older.
Makes sense.
You're playing characters who've been established in the nation for a bit, so now you can get a couple points in fetish to justify, or to start with one, and then you can write the story to justify how you got it.
That makes sense. So we do have a few more, and Kinfolk kind of...
Is next?
It was definitely next, but it could probably just be pushed back to the same as the allies, and the ancestors, and the contacts.
Well...
It's just...
It does bear a little explanation.
Well, absolutely, because while Danny's not wrong, there's a lot of nuance here, and the difference is the difference. That's the important part.
Right.
Because kinfolk are kinfolk. They're aware of the nation, and their place in the nation, and your place in the nation, where none of that shit should apply to the other two. If an ally knows you're a Garu and isn't a supernatural being, then that's called a veil breach.
I mean,
yes. If a contact does, that's like a veil breach with a fucking cape. That's like a super veil breach.
Well, but that's not saying that the kinfolk couldn't be an ally or a...
Well, yes, it does, because there's different... That's why they have the different ones.
Okay.
Yeah, there's different dots for them.
That's fair. Okay.
A kinfolk could have a special skill, but wouldn't be as useful as an ally or a contact.
Right, the distinction is there because it's an important distinction.
Gotcha. Okay.
Your kinfolk ally is a kinfolk, not an ally, in terms of where these dots get allocated.
Fair.
Roy Becker is kinfolk.
Right.
Period.
Okay, so it just puts them at a little higher, as importance.
Oh, absolutely, because they're aware of, over allies and contacts, absolutely. Because they're aware of the position of the nation, and that opens more avenues.
Versatile.
Yes.
Because, you don't have to be cagey around them.
Also immune to delirium, so...
Well, because kinfolk.
Yeah. They also kind of aren't supposed to tell you no normally.
Yeah,
whenever you ask for something.
There is usually a power dynamic there.
Yeah.
You are not the boss of your contacts, and you are not the boss of your allies, but you are kind of the boss of kinfolk.
Use that for the story as you will.
And that's like important, right? Because again, you can use them in the same capacity as allies or contacts, and your relationship with them might be different. Are they your kinfolk, or are they just kinfolk? And either one, right? It could be either one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, yeah, because of their place in the nation, because of their acknowledgement and their understanding of the nation, because they know what they are, they know what you are. And let's be clear, if it's your family, how that impacts versus if it's just kinfolk, how that impacts, because kinfolk is somebody's family.
Right.
In fact, I believe we talked recently about an example with a lunchbox. And a kinfolk that was related to an elder, right?
Yep. Yep.
And that's another great example of how kinfolk can be used, because someone had the dots in kinfolk. Let's say it's that kinfolk in question. Well, that kinfolk's related to an elder, which is going to have a bearing on your relationship with that elder, right?
Yep.
Right.
Especially if you're close to them or not very close to them.
Or if you're not treating the kinfolk very well, that elder will know.
And vice versa.
Yep.
So yeah, like it's very much in line with the other ones, Danny, the allies and the contacts, but the kinfolk, by the specific nature of them being kinfolk, does kind of enhance the whole thing.
Yeah. No, it's cool.
This is the person you could go up to that is your family and ask for money, or you can say, "Hey, give me cash," just in general. Not ask, just give it.
Right, or if your lupus pack-mate nose to the wind got all sorts of fucked up and is in lupus and bleeding out, because it's unconscious, right? And bleeding out, and fucking, we got to pull the hook out of the rib cage, which is absolutely fish hooked in there. You can go
That kinfolk.
right. You can go to that kinfolk's house and not have to worry. That's a safe place to do the surgery. Yep, the kitchen table operating room. Yeah.
In that example that I gave earlier, whenever I was not in the game for a couple of months because I was traveling, and my storyteller just put my character in a coma, I was in a kinfolk's house being cared for and taken care of by a nurse kinfolk during that time. And that was like a friend of ours, a really close friend of ours. And so she was just taking care of my character while I was gone.
And good thing you guys are friends with that kinfolk, or else you'd have a real potential skin dancer situation.
Which,
yes.
right, it can go the other way too.
I believe she was the wife of another packmate's mentor.
But see, yeah, there it is with the idea that how you treat the kinfolk. And this is for you storytellers. We talked about using allies and contacts as hostages and shit. Obviously, it's the same rules apply, but it's more personal with kinfolk. The treatment of that kinfolk, yeah, it is a big deal. And you do, like CJ brought up, you have the idea of skin dancers. Now, again, this is not a thing you do because you're bored and you think it would be neat. But to have a kinfolk ally turn based on how the poor treatment the pack has given the character, I would say is fair game.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But again, don't do it because you think it would be neat. Do it as a consequence of player action.
Yep.
And go listen to our episode on consequences of player action if you would like to learn more about that.
Oh my god.
Plugging an episode on an episode? Okay.
You're welcome.
Look.
Shameless.
Hooah.
Oh, that's what it's for. That's what you're supposed to do. We've mentioned consequences a couple of times, so I figured.
Say hello to our little friend, Phil, who guest starred on that episode. That was so bad. So M said the word mentor, expecting a segue.
I definitely said that because mentor is kind of interesting. I've never taken it, but I've always been intrigued by it. I'm unsure of why I've never taken it. I'm really not sure why. I've had my players take it before, but I've never taken it personally. But it's a Garu that is ranked higher than you that has kind of taken you under their wing and can help guide you and teach you things that you don't know.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, mentor.
I will say for me, I use it much like Fetish, is a promise of a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which has on occasion become a problem.
when they don't talk to that person.
Yes. It is Porter. How come you said this was going to be my mentor? How come he isn't mentoring me? Because you haven't spoken to him.
You got to build that rapport with them.
Yes, and whenever I'm STing a game, I've had a character take mentor, and instead of just hoping that they run into them, I will warn them before the game, like, hey, your mentor is going to be in this episode. Make sure you try to talk to somebody who might be eligible to be your mentor. And usually that kind of helps out before we start playing. That's just my style, though.
Well, and that's great that that's worked for you. I have, in my experience, and I'm talking, what up, Tom? When he was playing Crimson Ghost, he took a mentor, and I flat out told him Dead Man Dempsey was going to be his mentor.
Mm-hmm.
He still wouldn't go talk to him. So, if you've taken mentor, you do have to interact with the character.
Yeah.
The NPCs, and this is something that we preach pretty fucking constantly here, is that NPCs, this isn't Cardboard Town. The NPCs are not just standing around waiting for you to enlighten their lives, or are going to just come to you and offer just shit out of nowhere. You have to interact. Yep. Why isn't he stopping what he's doing and walk up to me and give me the mystery secret? Bitch, you didn't know your name yet.
What's called? You want to learn Garu martial arts? Fucking talk to somebody.
Right? Ask someone way too qualified 30 times and piss them off, and then go to the guy below it and get a yes.
Yeah.
Look at that, you have a mentor.
Yeah.
So it looks like somebody took some dots in that.
Whoa.
Even with Rico, he's got the Dotson mentor, but that's going towards my background story, though.
Right.
So it's the Garu who helped raise him and taught him how to be Garu. So I haven't used it in story because it hasn't been.
Well, it's not relevant.
It's not relevant right now. Yeah.
Right now, you guys kind of have a special case in terms of old shit, or
yes,
it's a unique circumstance.
Right. So it's like, well, if you have this Dotson background, or if you have the Dotson mentor, why aren't you using those? Because it's not necessary right now. It was just the background of the story, background of the character.
And it's kind of interesting that you use that to inform the background of your character, because it could come into play later. And also, in those one-offs, we have those flashbacks where that has become useful.
Sure.
I believe that was your one-off?
No, he's not my mentor.
Oh, okay.
Or at least he's not the mentor in mind. I mean, he could eventually be a different one, but...
It was Tom's one that came up.
Oh, yes. That might be it.
Yeah, that was the one with
Oh, yes, I'm remembering now.
Mentor, it's a Garu of higher rank than you that is meant to teach you and help you out. You just gotta, give him a reason to. Next up is one that I often see people talk about in negative contexts is Purebreed.
I'm excited for this one.
Purebreed is interesting. I like it, especially reading the dots and how it kind of escalates in appearance. What is Purebreed?
In the, little brief description it's got, it's a Garu, you have the blood of a Garu hero in your veins, and others can see it within you. Which, Purebreed is one of those that, hey, certain tribes require it. Looking at you, Silverfangs.
Yeah, I see the Purebreed as, the only tribe that really kind of matters to this one is Silverfangs. I mean, and that's a personal opinion. Obviously, anyone can have Purebreed, but
well, not everyone.
Most tribes can have Purebreed, but with Silverfangs, it is required. How many dots is required?
3.
3.
A minimum of 3.
That's interesting, because while Silent Striders are forbidden from taking Ancestor, our Silverfangs have to have Purebreed.
Yep.
Or else they're not accepted into the tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Falcon won't accept them.
oh, weird.
But with pure breed, each tribe has a description with what that might look like.
Mhm.
So under Wendigo, it says Wendigo with strong pure breed are clean-limbed, strong timber wolves with coats of varying shades of gray, which I enjoy reading those descriptions on each one of the different types of tribes just to kind of get a feel for what they look like.
Yeah.
Wait, and let's take a couple steps here. Like Danny pointed out, it's you have to have it for Silver Fangs,
Mm-hmm.
and as he was I think as he was trying to say, is that you can have pure breed without being.
Yes.
But
Yes,
here's the interesting thing, and it's the thing that people don't really talk about. Okay, it's one of these things where between the lines, because in order to be a member of a tribe, you have to be accepted by the totem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, you can petition when you're going for your rite of passage. You could call out to whoever the fuck you want to.
Doesn't mean they're going to answer.
Right. Well, whoever answers isn't up to you. Maybe multiple totems show up and you get to pick the litter. Maybe you're that awesome. Probably you're not. It doesn't matter. It's however that's going to be written. But pure breed, right, talks about your resemblance to an ancestor of old. That doesn't mean it's necessarily from your tribe.
Right.
Yep.
Oh,
Now, it's
good point.
right? It's entirely possible that because of that pure breed, the totem in question from whatever tribal background is going to want dibs. But what about a Garu, a young man who was born from a Black Fury mother and a long line of Black Furies? Well, that's not a Black Fury because he can't be a Black Fury. But if he has, I don't know, like 5 pure breed,
What happens?
right? Well, he's going to look like, in Krynos, he's going to look like one of these great back of the box or the statue version
Mm-hmm.
Black Fury, with his probably a lot like Mari Karba, because everyone loves Mari.
Yeah.
But maybe he's even Mari's kid. We don't know. I'm not the boss of her. But right, that he's going to look like a purebred Black Fury.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because he's a Fianna.
Yeah. Because he's a Fianna? Oh, wow.
Well, somebody has to take him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he can't be accepted into the women's pack or
Tribe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I mean, that's something to consider. Is just because you have that pure breed doesn't mean it's the pure breed from the tribe that you are currently a part of.
Right.
Which can make for some interesting scenarios in terms of role playing and reputation. That red-furred Wendigo.
Yeah, I have a question.
Shoot.
That 3 dot of pure breed with the Black Fury male, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could Falcon accept him into Silverfang? Or is that not something Falcon does? As an individual like myself who isn't too keen or knowledgeable about pure breed.
Well, I think the answer... I like this question, actually. Good on you.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I
Yeah,
think
because it just requires 3 pure breed and it doesn't specify Silverfang pure breed.
I think the answer here is that it's up to storyteller's discretion.
I like that.
Would Falcon accept even its high breeding, but would accept another tribe's,
Mm-hmm.
For me, I would say no because of the nature of the Silver Fangs, but I don't think there's a wrong answer there.
And
Yeah.
this is where I have a slightly different take on pure breed, because I hear a lot of people who get really weird whenever it comes to like Garu heritage and how like the Silver Fangs try for high pure breed in like their kids and stuff. And I temper it a little bit with it's not just your like actual, your actual bloodline, but it could be a spiritual purity, a spiritual pure breed where it's, once again, your ancestors and everything of all different tribes. What if one of these what if one of these past lives was a Silver Fang? Yes, you come from this long line of Black Furies, but somewhere down there you have that Silver Fang that you just have a stronger spiritual connection to. And this is how, in my mind, I explain that, like, yeah, you have this high pure breed. Everybody's expecting it to be like, yeah, you're going to look like a dyed in the wool Black Fury. Rite of passage happens. Why the fuck did Falcon pick you?
Yeah, and what you said there really falls in line with what the book says here. Pure breed is a nebulous combination of bloodline and spiritual inheritance. I like that. That's kind of cool.
And I mean, it's interesting. And the thing that you mentioned there, that is in fact an addition that was brought on with 20. For me, I think, and this is exclusive to the Silverfangs for me, is that Falcon is just too arrogant.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, I mean, that's where I look at it, like in terms specifically of M's question. Like, I don't think the Falcon would take him because of Falcon's arrogance.
Yeah.
I like that reasoning.
But I think for, the others, I think that's a different issue. And even then, the point of Pure Breed is to use it to, is clout to add on to social roles.
When involving members of said tribe.
Which I generally don't do.
Yep.
Because I would prefer you guys to just roleplay it.
Mm-hmm. And this is where, I do the same thing, but I use it as sort of that initial, gut reaction.
Oh, and I agree, and I think that's a good use of it.
Yeah, it is that clout. Hey, you look like this person that we've had, stories told about. Oh, that's your great-great-grandfather or mother in the case of the Black Furies. Maybe you'll go somewhere. So they might be more inclined to listen to you. Because maybe the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree.
No, and I'm down for that. I think that's it. We're just cutting out the role at that point.
Yeah,
that's
cutting out the role, but still showing that it can matter.
Yep.
Because there are some people who will take high dots in this, expecting to be rolling a 15 dice pool because of how they built their character, who get disappointed whenever they run into an ST who doesn't make them roll social roles, or doesn't have them roll social roles.
Yeah, heads up, everybody. The dots in the sheet are less important than the actual role playing.
The dots on the sheet really help inform your character and helps tell a story.
Well,
and so whenever your characters or your players put dots on a sheet, let them help them tell the story, but also don't let it control the story.
Well, they're necessary for a game mechanic, but
yeah, absolutely.
The storyteller system is not meant for min-maxing.
Yeah.
You're barking up the wrong tree.
Yep.
All right. Moving on. Resources.
Money.
That's what I want.
You want that one?
Yeah.
No, it's...
He wants money. He wants resources.
Joke failed. Resources is next.
Resources is next.
And resources is money.
Yeah, it's just money.
Money.
Yep.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
They are. First you get the money, and then you get the power, and then you get the money to power the diamonds. Sweet.
And and having resources can help you with your contacts as well as other things in game, like eating and places to sleep if you're not roughing it.
Right.
And not getting poor waitresses killed.
I know.
Yeah.
Fucking it's a slippery slope. She just wanted to, feed her kids and do her job and pay her mortgage, but no. Anyway. So simply put, resources is, how much money you have. Mm-hmm. It can also equate into, assets as well. I don't know. I think it's largely pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
When you're working your character, this can be, woven into a background to explain why you have
a car,
or you
place
want
to live.
You'll want to use it ideally with stuff like maybe your kinfolk parents tucked aside a little bank account just in case you bred true.
Oh, I like that idea.
This way you can take care of yourself. Yeah, like a nice savings. Because you're not going to college, right? So that college fund is
the
now
quote-unquote college fund.
Exactly. That keeps you in room and board and medical supplies and whatever is a garu.
Those kinfolk parents had 4 kids, and hoping one of them bred true, they were putting away savings every month for the one that bred true.
We've got a bank account with $100,000 for the one of you that wasn't a mistake.
Wow.
Or maybe they're hoping you don't breed true and you do get to go to college. Crap.
Look at that. We've got savings for it. And
or
now
a trip
you can
to
do something
Vegas.
to help the nation.
Yep.
Well, I know that like Bonars, it's discouraged that they take resources as a background.
Yeah, it used to be banned.
Yeah, it used to be banned, but now with W20, right?
Yeah.
It made it's more just discouraged thing. But like I don't remember where I saw it, but it was like the example, like what if Bonar won like the lottery?
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
No, something I really liked that W20 did was remove the hard restriction and just said, I mean, with the exception of the Sound Striders, but that needs to be there.
Well, that's
Is, you know, and made them, you know, we frown on these, but because there are always exceptions.
right.
You know, fucking, what about, you know, he won the lotto, or he found the antique in the dumpster that turned out to be worth like 50 grand.
Right.
What?
He's got
Yeah,
some resources
yeah.
there whenever he takes that to a pawn shop.
Exactly.
I can
Or
see that too.
he's like the king of the Bowery from John Wick and runs this whole little organization.
Yeah.
Hey, that could be something too. I could see that too. I could see two different ways of that happening. Like the Bonar who wins the lottery, right? But like he's got all this money, but he's still a Bonar. He likes being a Bonar, so he sits back and he's still got like a shitty little apartment. But like if he ever needs something, he just goes get it.
You can pool your resources with your pack as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do have like a Bonar in your pack as well as a Glasswalker, maybe that Glasswalker has a ton of money that they can lend to the Bonar whenever they're in need for it.
Well, and then there's, you know, this is not resources,
Yeah.
but it's something that I've always been a fan of. And I guess the point is that you can get money without having resources. And that's robbing your enemies.
Yep.
Loot, baby, loot.
What? I mean, they don't need any money. They don't need it anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking, you gotta eat.
In one of my recent games, I should have expected it, but I wasn't really expecting it. When they killed a bunch of their enemies at the end, they were like, "All right, we'd like to look in their pockets to see if they have anything like money for us." I was like, "Okay, we'll leave it off here, and next time I will let you know what you find, because they're gonna find money on these people." But I want to figure out how much and what else do they find on their persons.
And at that point, I think, at least what I've done in the past, is I'll roll two die.
Mm-hmm.
But the order matters.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I maybe roll one after the other. So if it comes up a 10 and a 1, the guy had $1 on him. But if it comes up a 1 and a 10, that's $10.
That's
Yep.
fair.
You know, double zeros, we'll call that 100.
Ooh, big money.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a credit card, right? Okay, how much is on it?
Yeah.
Take a roll, decide how many zeros you want to put on that credit limit. Probably not too many. Right? And then, for shits and grins, roll a second one to see when that card gets cut off.
Oh, yeah. How long they have access to it.
Yep.
Oh,
I
I'd
like
almost
it.
make that an odds and evens roll sometimes.
I mean, you could.
If you're
Each
using
time
it
it's
out,
used, roll it.
what kind of plants they got? Yeah.
Or if it ever lands on a 1, it's done.
Yep.
I like it. That's kind of fun.
It's just, you know, I mean, again, it's not a background, but it's if you don't take the background, you're not screwed. It's a way
Yeah.
to spice things up.
You can always use like
You
more of
don't
a
have
gift.
to take the background.
Yeah. Use stuff like gifts and fetishes too. Like the Loon's refund or the maxed out credit card or whatever.
Yeah, learns refund. That's an awesome fetish.
Mhm.
But I feel that's enough. That doesn't need to be a thing.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
we move on to rights, which is just you start with rights.
Yeah. Good job.
These you know, this is what you know. You can always learn rights, more rights later.
The write it writer.
I turned into Scooby Doo. I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
Front row.
Right?
It's definitely one of those short ones
Yeah.
though. So
No way. There's not really much we have to discuss here.
right.
It's just
Yeah.
you starting with rights. You know, you can
You
learn
learn them
rights
at some
later.
point.
Yep.
I believe we have a whole episode on rights.
I think we might have 2, and they might both be called the right stuff.
And then,
Yeah.
one is called the right stuff. I don't know what the other
Oh,
one's called.
guaranteed one of them is called the right stuff. I don't
Yes.
even know if there's a second. We've been doing this for 5 years, man. I don't fucking know anything.
Yeah, it's fine.
It all bleeds together. And so finally,
Mm-hmm. So yeah, next, spirit heritage.
yes. Now, what some editions might tell you,
Mm-hmm.
this is the most airplay I think it's ever getting, is that Yaru are part man and part wolf and part bleh. Garu are part human, part wolf, and part spirit.
Right.
And that spirit is extremely important, and it would be weird to cut it out for any reason.
The edition you're reading it's cut out in?
Yeah, spirit heritage isn't a thing in revised.
Oh my goodness.
I think it might have been brought in Umbra revised, or maybe the player's guide, but I can't prove either one of that. It's not in the core book. But I knew that already.
Spirit heritage is one of those that is also my favorite.
Oh, it's a neat one. And I'm being one of your favorite. Why don't you explain it real quick?
Yeah, so essentially spirit heritage, kind of like ancestors, is your ancestry, but instead of the Garu or the humans that came before you in your bloodline, it's what spirits or spirit heritage, roll credits, you have inherited as a Garu.
And I want to be clear on this, because spirit matters can get tricky anyway, right?
Absolutely.
It's not a flame spirit banged my mom.
This is the type of spirit that you have a deeper connection with. While you can commune, since you're Garu, you can commune with all spirits of all things that have a spiritual inhabitants, which is pretty much everything. These are the ones that you have the strongest connection to. And in the case of my player character, Carly, in our actual play, she has a stronger connection to lizards and things related to lizards. So if I wanted to call upon a lizard spirit or a gecko spirit for any reason, I would have an easier time doing that. And they would also be a little bit more receptive to me and my requests because of that heritage.
Yeah. It's the spirits you have the biggest affinity for. And for me, a lot of times whenever I take it, I try to flavor my character around it a little bit more. If it's specifically spirit heritage elementals, I'll pick one of the elements, one of the big cardinal four, and try to go off of aspects that are associated with that and play into it a little bit more. If it's fire spirits, then I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple more dots into rage anyway, no matter the auspice. And I'm gonna play an angrier character or a more high emotion character.
Which is a great way to do it. We talk about Carly's affinity for lizards. We saw some of that, a little bit of that, with Dodger in the actual play, and his affinity for pigeons.
Yep.
And I agree. It's something that should be in your storytellers. It should be something to integrate. If they're going to send a spirit messenger, have it be a spirit messenger related to that affinity. The background itself allows a smoother interaction, certainly. And that's great. But yeah, like CJ's saying too, take that the extra mile, make that more part of the character, part of the way of life of the character. It makes things more interesting and frankly cooler, right? It's a way to make your character more unique without being that special snowflake main character guy that ruins groups.
I remember, yeah, it does. I remember whenever I was making Carly and you and I, Porter, were discussing some of the details, like my spirit heritage. You asked me to choose an affinity and I said animals, and then you asked me to narrow that down again.
Yup.
And I was thinking about my gifts and the things that Carly is into, and because of one of her gifts, I chose the lizard spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's specifically the gift that I was using quite a bit that allows her to climb on walls and ceilings. And I thought that was a really good fit. Right.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if I might not have said this, but I know it's in my brain because I'm here, is narrowed that down further to it's lizards, but to the chameleon.
Yes, you did. And that was, we haven't said that on air, but you did narrow it down to the chameleon. What a How I Met Your Mother reference there.
Right, I love doing it.
Yeah, we kind of narrowed that down at the end of our last actual play with one of our discussions that we were having, and I believe that will be a one-off coming up soon. that we'll see that with.
The soon is relative, Miss Missy.
Yeah, sometime in the future,
Sometime
we'll
in
have
the
a one-off
future.
that kind of, that kind of
This isn't
dips
the-
deeper into that.
Yeah, but
This isn't the show to call that kind of shot.
Yeah, right.
That's fair.
but no, but exactly because it wasn't like I mandated it had to be one, but I thought it would be better if it's a singular one. Right, we're not.
Yeah, and
Is a game mechanic. It's going to cover all the lizards, but as a personal touch,
Yeah.
It's cool flavor.
right?
Game mechanic, it covers everything related, but as a character and a storytelling perspective,
Specific.
it's a nice flavor touch.
And also was not chosen at random because yes, there was that conversation about the one thing, but even before
Yes.
that, you're leaning. I look at your gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the gecko, but you also have Shroud,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
which is a sort of stealth camo. Sort
Right.
of.
Yes. And the things that I'm thinking of in the future really lean into that heavily. So it is a good choice.
That's awesome, though. I like how it's flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spirit Heritage is a cool little background, and I mean, it's good for anybody, but I definitely encourage Thurgis to take it.
Oh, yeah.
It'll really help, help you embrace the inner
Yeah.
Thurge and flesh it out.
To me, in my brain, it kind of seems like almost like a pyramid of sorts, with at the very bottom being the chameleon or chameleon. For those of you who are irritated with the chameleon pronunciation, Ted. Looking at you, Ted. And then above that, all lizards and things related to. And then above that would be like animals. Animals being receptive, but not as receptive as lizards and their
I'd kind of do that the other way
relatives.
around, but I think we're saying the same
Animals
thing. We're
being
just
the most
going.
Yeah.
No, I'd
Oh,
say
yes.
yeah.
No.
We're just going different directions up and down the pyramid.
Yeah.
Our heads are in the same.
That's true,
place.
yes. Yeah,
I just figured the capstone is the most important.
Yeah.
and that would be at the bottom of the pyramid biologically, but actually push his glasses up.
She just actually.
She just say,
I
Jar.
did actually.
And
Jar.
all right, fucking. Now it's a feces spirit.
Yep.
Now your spirit affinity is the turd.
No.
Speaking of words that begin with T, however,
Wow, that's okay.
we are going to move
Anyway.
to our final background,
Mm-hmm.
totem.
Totem?
Totem.
Totem.
So,
Totem.
Totem.
and this is not a standard background.
No, this is like the togetherness background.
Yes, this is first of all, it's the only background that you can change the numbers of. In fact, it shouldn't be a background. It should be its own thing
I agree.
because it is not a background. I mean, I
Also
guess
spend EXP on it.
well,
And
exactly.
you can also, and it's one of those that you can bend with your pack mates.
Well, more to the point, you have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you form a pack, you get a pack totem. And these are things you should know. You already know this. But that totem has a background cost. And that cost has to be paid through the whole pack. The whole pack has to pay that together.
Right.
And whenever I joined the pack late on, I remember using some of my experience to buy in whenever it was finally accepted into the pack. So that I could have that totem and everything related to the totem.
Yes. And that's the thing is the amount of dots in totem represent the relationship between the totem and the players, as well as the powers that are granted from the totem, the strength of the totem. I mean, it's all one big mess. The more totem points, the stronger the totem, the closer you are with the totem, benefits all around. But everyone has to pay in. They can be bought with experience, and that's important, but it has to be done together.
It's a group effort.
So how do you do that? I mean, simply enough. You're going to be using, if you're using backgrounds for it, cool. As a pack, you can decide to do that to kind of get a head start for when you get the totem.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
To-
Everybody takes one, and then you got your 4 dots.
right. But as you go and as you continue that relationship with that totem, you guys collectively can choose to buy in and increase your totem rank. Hopefully, from a storyteller standpoint, you're not allowing them to do that overnight. That should be earned as well.
Yeah.
Tell, don't show. Or show, don't tell. Sorry.
Yes, show, don't tell.
I didn't know your
I'm all
name was
backwards.
for M.
Yeah, I'm all backwards.
I mean, I can see it.
That's what the M's for. It's M. Kiefer.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm Kiefer.
I mean, I can see that they're going to quote unquote pool their points into this, but maybe those benefits don't come right away, like you just said, of just not overnight.
Yeah, I mean, it because at that point, hopefully, your totem is another character. It's representative of a greater relationship with said totem.
Right.
You guys don't hang out with Coho Jack a whole lot, and that doesn't mean you need to constantly talk with him. But this can be, and maybe we go away from Coho Jack for a second. Something like Boar, carving an effigy, or a small blood sacrifice, or praying to the totem, are all things that can help strengthen that bond. So, like from a practical standpoint rather than a game mechanic standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's it called in my game here on the server? They wanted to start spending some of their totem points at one point, so they built a shrine in the shrine area.
Yes.
Good idea.
And that was their justification, to be able to start spending some of the points they had.
And excellent.
Yeah, it's an awesome idea.
I like it.
I guess totem is such a weird one that it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, there's stuff to say, but I think it's its own. That's its own episode.
Yeah.
Or part of an episode
Yeah.
on totems in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I think at that point it might be time to cut it there. I know we've run pretty long today, yeah, Danny?
Yeah.
But this has been a jumbo size episode on the backgrounds.
It's Storyteller 101.
It's like it's a 101 and a half at that point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, storyteller and player 101.5.
All right.
102, maybe?
Biggie size, extra Big Mac sauce.
Oh, yes, please.
Tune into the Let's
Yeah, I
Play.
think 102 is good. Yeah.
Tune into the Let's Play. Oh, man.
101 and 101 XL.
Okay.
Battlegrounds again. Porter is done. He doesn't know what's happening.
We're done. Stick a fork in us.
All right, that's our time, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this extra large episode on the backgrounds. We certainly had fun with this one, and before we take off, I want to say on behalf of everyone here, thank you so much for your support and for listening, for the likes and the subscribes and everything, because it makes a big deal. It makes an impact for us. A double extra special thanks to all of our backers, because your impact on our lives is fucking massive. And it means everything to us.
If you're on YouTube, let your voices be heard in the comments or on the Discord.
Right? And I guess there's like a bell thing, too,
Yeah.
for a notification.
Subscribe.
You already know when the episodes come. They're the same but it makes YouTube happy, and maybe that gets us to more people. YouTube's mean.
It's of the Weaver. What do you expect?
Yeah, no kidding. But we are going to take off. So, again, thanks for everything. Take care of each other. And, again, let's focus on the stuff that keeps us together, not the stuff that tears us apart. We'll see you later. Take it easy. I think every Keanu Reeves movie should have an Alex Winter cameo.